Chapter 13. Leaving the Army. As Churchill once said, "In the world there are no permanent friends or enemies, only eternal interests." In 1969, due to the demands of the international situation, my unit was dispatched deep into the Kunlun Mountains for construction duties. Harsh environmental conditions slowed the progress beyond expectations. Over 3 years, dozens of officers and soldiers sacrificed their lives on the worksite. Yet the military facility we were building was only two-thirds complete. At that point, the global situation reshuffled. With Nixon's visit to China in 1972, Sino-American relations thawed. China's strategic deployments underwent a massive overhaul. The Kunlun Mountain project was halted, and we engineers, initially conscripted mid-career, were reassigned back into the field army ranks under the Lanzhou military region. Day after day, year in and year out, training, drill, maneuver, study, review. Life in the barracks was not only monotonous but also tough. A few years passed, the Cultural Revolution came to an end, and the Central Committee of the party promptly corrected the errors. The Gang of Four was smashed, and after a decade of turmoil, social order was finally restored. However, the military is a realm out of sync with society, and I did not notice much change within the barracks. Though we no longer had to recite Chairman Mao's quotations upon greeting each other as before, we still had to conduct revolutionary education with the new recruits when they entered the camp. That morning, after returning from a meeting with the regimental headquarters, communications officer Xiao Lu hurried over, out of breath, reporting, "Company Commander, a platoon of new recruits has arrived today. However, the instructor has gone for training at the military region, so you are requested to give a talk on revolution and tradition to the recruits." Speaking about revolution and tradition was essentially sharing the history of our unit with the new soldiers. I wasn't particularly knowledgeable about these things, but as the company commander, and with the instructor away, it was up to me to step in. I led these 30 or so new recruits into the honor display room of our unit, pointed to a brocade flag embroidered with the words "Bayonet Hero Company," and told them this was the honor obtained by our predecessors during the Huaihai campaign. The title had been preserved until today. I embellished the harrowing tale of that battle, describing how our 6th Company saw the red with bayonets and, despite being out of ammunition, used bayonets to repel a ferocious onslaught by an entire Kuomintang reactionary faction, gloriously fulfilling the blocking mission assigned by superiors. Then I pointed to a blackened iron pot in a glass case and relayed to the recruits, "Comrades, don't underestimate this old pot. During the Huaihai campaign, it was after eating stewed pork with vermicelli made in this pot that the revolutionary forebears of our 6th Company went into battle to earn their merits. See this crack on the pot? It was caused by the reactionary Kuomintang's artillery. This pot still silently speaks of the heroic deeds from that time and the brutality of the reactionaries." That was about all I could muster, not being the one typically tasked with ideological work. But I felt quite confident in my delivery, decidedly adequate for these recruits. After dismissing the soldiers to the cafeteria, Xiao Lu and I followed, and I asked him, "How was my talk on revolution and tradition? Was it passable?" Xiao Lu responded enthusiastically, "Oh, Company Commander, you were amazing. Had me drooling there. When do we get to follow the revolutionary martyrs and improve our meals, huh? Can we have some stewed pork with vermicelli too?" Swallowing hard, I flicked Lu's head in mock irritation. "You didn't grasp a word about revolutionary traditions, did you? All you heard was stewed pork and vermicelli. Go get us some food from the cafeteria. They're serving buns today, and if we're late, all the new recruits will have taken them. Go on, double time." As Lu jogged off, I realized I had forgotten an important instruction and called after him, "And pick some with plenty of filling for me." Lying in my bed, I ate a bun while reading a letter just received from home. Everything was well at home, with no mention of anything significant. I skimmed through the letter twice before setting it aside, then picked up an ancient book inherited from my ancestors. The experiences of the past few years had sparked a keen interest in feng shui, and I would read it whenever I found the time. Due to the numerous technical terms related to the 5 elements, the I Ching, Book of Changes, and other components of traditional Chinese cosmology, such as Jia and Yi wood of the east, Bing and Ding fire of the south, Wu and Ji earth of the center, Gung and Xian metal of the west, Ran and Gue water of the north, and hexagrams like Qian, Can, Jin, Zhen, Kurin, Dui, Li, and Wei. I found many places in the book puzzling. Over the years, I've sought out many related texts to broaden my understanding, and despite my limited education, I've been able to grasp about 30 to 40% of it. The 16-character secret of feng shui. These 16 characters refer to heaven, earth, man, ghost, deity, Buddha, demon, beast, shock, quell, elude, thing, transform, yin, yang, and void. The origins of the book are unknown to me, both in terms of its age and authorship. However, its content is profound, detailing the 64 variations of Fushi's 8 trigrams, which, in fact, should be 16 trigrams. These guas had been halved by divine beings during the Shang dynasty for revealing too much of the heavenly secrets, leaving even the remaining 8 incomplete. But those who can understand even a fraction of it are already quite skilled. Consider Zhuge Liang, who knew but a little, yet managed strategic operations for Liu Bei, maintaining a balance of power among the 3 kingdoms. Liu Bowen, with only a grasp of a third, helped Zhu Yuanzhang lay a 4th-century foundation for the Ming dynasty. All this I find hard to believe. Can such mysticism be true? The only regret is that this book contains only half the information, focusing on the layout structures of feng shui, 5 elements, and burials. The companion half covering yin and yang, 8 trigrams, and Tai Chi numerology has been missing since it reached my grandfather. The remnants are disjointed and the text obscure, hard to comprehend in its fuller depth. I believe it would be easier to understand if the entire text were intact. Suddenly, a summoning bugle call, 3 long and 3 short blasts, pierced the camp's calm air. My immediate thought was, definitely something's happened. They wouldn't call an urgent assembly of the entire camp in broad daylight for no reason. Stuffing the remaining 2 buns into my mouth, I leapt out of bed and rushed out the door. Troops aligned in orderly columns. I saw not only our company but the entire battalion was gathering. As a junior officer, I wasn't privy to the purpose of the operation. I was simply to follow orders, and the command was to stand by at the train station, ready to move out with our fellow troops. More than 10,000 men crowded the military train station, resembling an undulating sea of green in the distance. It seemed the whole division was on the move. Mobilizing an entire division was a massive operation. Our main force division was particularly large, consisting of 3 infantry regiments, an artillery regiment, a tank regiment, plus the division's headquarters and logistical troops, adding up to more than 20,000 people. What could such a large-scale operation be for? It likely wasn't disaster relief. I hadn't heard of any recent disasters in the area. Bewildered, we were transported in sealed train cars to the Yunnan border. Only then did we realize war was upon us, causing many soldiers to weep. Meanwhile, Deng Xiaoping, then visiting the United States, made a surprising statement at the White House. If the small child does not listen, it is time to spank their buttocks, thus publicly acknowledging the massive mobilization of Chinese troops at the Sino-Vietnamese border. On the early morning of February 17th, a force of 220,000 soldiers from 17 divisions of the People's Liberation Army struck out, battling all the way to Langsun. On March 4th, China announced its withdrawal. My company was the spearhead of our main force division, taking the brunt of the fighting. Over 10 days of combat, we suffered more than half casualties. During a march, we were ambushed by Viet Cong special agents who used a woman carrying a child as cover to throw a bomb into our armored personnel carrier. 8 of my soldiers were killed inside that vehicle. Furious and with eyes bloodshot, I killed 3 of them and captured 2. A Vietnamese man in his 50s and a woman in her 20s, who appeared to be father and daughter. A subordinate told me the woman had disguised the bomb as a swaddled baby and tossed it into our armored vehicle as she passed by. No doubt, it was her doing. My greatest dread was witnessing the death of my comrades in arms. In a fit of rage, I forgot all about the 3 main rules of discipline and the 8 points for attention, as well as our military's policy on the treatment of prisoners. In retaliation, I had someone tie a bomb package to the Vietnamese woman's underbelly and made her ride a soil plane. Then I tightly bound the elderly man and threw him off a cliff into a minefield. This act was a serious violation of military discipline, and it even alarmed Commander Sue of the headquarters. Had it not been for my family's deep connections within the military region, I would have been court-martialed. My military career came to an abrupt end, and with a discharge order in hand, I returned to my hometown.